Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I just want to take some time and do a follow-up review slash pros and cons on my 2020 BX2380. You know what, 250 hours and almost 3 years of ownership. What this looks like, things I like, things I don't like, just kind of overall impressions. I know this has probably been done to death out there on YouTube, but I'm going to go ahead and do it again. So thanks for sticking with me. Like I said, had this for almost 3 years. Actually, probably right about 3 years. The third season that I've had it, and like I said, it's right at 250 hours on the clock. Use this primarily, well, probably 50% for mowing, the other 50% for kind of just general tasks and stuff. And just wanted to kind of go over some of the things I like about it, some of the things I don't like about it. So we'll go right into it. And just to give you some context, got 2.5 acres here where my homestead's at. Mostly open with Bahia grass. I mow about 1.5 acres of it on a regular basis. I've got about 1 acre designated off for our livestock that it doesn't get mowed on a regular basis. But like I said, we do a lot of general chores and tasks with it. So kind of getting into some of the stuff that I don't like about this, right? And so this is my third Kubota tractor. Previously, before this, had a BX2280. Had that for around 5 years, and I put about 400 hours on it before I sold it. And before that, I had a Grand L 3430. It was just way too big for this property. Had it while we were building our house, and it was good for construction cleanup and grading and stuff like that. But after we got settled in here, it just became too big, and I stepped down to the BX2200. And after 4 or 5 years of the BX2200, it was time to step up to something newer, something with a loader. So actually, that'll bring me to my first point about the pros about this, and about really all my Kubotas, is the resale and the value. Both of my previous Kubotas I bought pre-owned. Both of those previous Kubotas, like I said, I put multiple years, multiple hundreds of hours on each one of those machines. I got every dollar that I put into those machines in terms of purchase price back out of them when I sold them. So, and I expect right now, not that I have any plans to get rid of this tractor, but if needed to, that this tractor would sell at, close, or maybe above what I paid for it 3 years ago. Obviously, inflation over the last couple of years has had an effect on prices, but just Kubotas in general, they hold their value. Everyone knows a Kubota, you know, lasts, is reliable, has value. So that's the kind of the first point about this, is that, you know, they're just, it's, you pay a little bit more up front at the beginning, but you get all that money back in the end. Things I think could be a little bit better about this machine. Now, this is, you know, one of their, you know, kind of top tier, or was one of their top tier machines. You know, it kind of is marketed as a premium machine. And some things I think could be done better. One, the steering knuckle boots here. If you guys can see that, got a crack in that. Same thing on the other side. It's been like that for, I don't know, about a year on both sides. And my previous BX did the same thing. It was actually already like that when I bought it pre-owned. And I see the new ones, the boots aren't any better. Really think Kubota could have done a better job on these. That being said, I don't have any plans to tear this apart to fix those anytime soon. You know, just kind of pull the crack back in the boot, get some grease in there. That's what I did with the previous one. We'll just kind of keep an eye on it. And if you got to take this whole thing apart just to put another rubber boot on it, might as well wait till that joint wears out, and which hopefully isn't anytime soon. Other things I don't like, the armrests on the seat. Again, on a premium machine, I like that they have the armrests. I find for me that they sit a little low. It'd be nice if they had a little bit of an adjustment where they could be propped up a little bit to support your arms a little bit. I'm not super tall, and I find that when I relax my shoulders, that my elbows are nowhere really close to the armrest, and as such, kind of ride with the armrests up most of the time. Hood latch. So this is something that's kind of janky on these, this hood latch here. You got to kind of push down, and actually it's kind of more of a two-handed thing now. It was kind of a one-handed thing at the beginning. Yep, can't even do this right now. So that's something I think could be improved with this. I know this was the first of the BX with where the hood opens up. Let me see if I can. All right, so we lost the previous video there. I'll have to splice these together, but anyways, needless to say, this is kind of a pain in the butt to get the hood open. Also on my list of things that I think could be a little bit better, the hydraulic quick coupler. While this thing is awesome, and it is actually one of my things I really like about the tractor, it leaks like a sieve. I mean, not to the point where stuff's spraying out of it, but as you can see, it stays pretty leaky. Tracks a lot of dirt. Wish they had done a little bit better job on that with the quick connect there, although this thing is clutch when it comes time to remove and put the loader back on. That actually is one of the things I really like about this tractor. One of the reasons why I went with the Kubota over the John Deere is the easy offloader. I know John Deere has the Easy Park or whatever they call it. Kubota calls this a Swift attach. I find that, I think I haven't had any problems with the Swift attach system here on the Kubota, as far as anything bending, binding, not working correctly. I find that if I'm on reasonably firm soil, I can actually remove it on the soil. I don't need to pull up on the driveway, and that I can do everything from the operator station. I don't have to get off and mess with the individual hydraulic quick couplers. The single hydraulic quick coupler here is clutch on the Kubota, and has been, you know, it really makes this, you know, a 30-second, 1 minute type thing. If I'm gonna mow the grass, you know, I just literally, it's no question to, you know, take the time to pop this thing off, so I get the extra maneuverability when I'm mowing the grass. It actually brings me to another point with this. You know, for me, this is the right size tractor. It's versatile, it's maneuverable. You know, if you got an acre, 2 acres, I'd say all the way up to like 4 or 5 acres, depending on what you're doing. You know, this thing really shines on these smaller properties. You know, I think if you had under an acre, it probably would be overkill. You know, I think if you were over 5 acres, again, depending on what you were doing, it might be a little lacking. But for these smaller, you know, estate type properties, it really shines, and it was one of the big reasons of choosing the subcompact mower. Another, on the positive side of things, another unique thing about the Kubota that I feel like shines over the Deere is the mid-mount mower deck. You know, not everyone is going to use a mid-mount mower deck for their applications, but you know, with me using this, you know, first and foremost, this was a mowing machine, and you know, the rest of the time it's general purpose. I wanted a good, robust mid-mount mower. On my BX2380, I had, you know, a great experience with that mower. It was heavy duty. You know, these wheels, they're built very heavy duty. I feel like they're built a little bit stronger than the wheels on the Deere decks are. This is not the drive over deck. This is just the standard mid-mount mower deck. It's a 60-inch. It is a little bit of a pain in the butt to get on and off. Primarily, it's the attachment of the center PTO shaft. I don't know if you can see that up in there. That's the hardest part about getting this thing connected or disconnected, is getting that shaft connected up in there. Aside from that though, you know, and for me that's maybe twice a year that this thing, you know, comes on and off. It's, like I said, extremely heavy duty. It does a decent job cutting. You know, it's not going to be, you know, like a you know, commercial zero turn quality of cut, at least not with my Bahia grass. You know, if you had a little bit nicer grass, maybe the cut with this would be good. I still have the factory blades on this. I'd say I had the 250 hours on this machine. At least 125 of these are running that deck, and you know, sharpened the blades probably 10 times, and they still have plenty of meat on them. They're easy to sharpen. They're not too hard. They're not too soft of a metal. You know, and it does a good job with the cut. It side discharges really well. I think the flow of the deck is good. Did have a little bit of a problem initially with one of the baffles getting bent after it was my fault. I ran over a branch or something in the yard. Not something super huge, but just enough to tweak the baffle. Had to get underneath it and straighten that back out, but that's been a non-issue ever since. Back on the categories of things that could be a little bit better, the hydraulics on this machine I feel are slightly lacking. I feel like the loader lift capacity could be a little better, and the cycle speed could be a little better. I find that they are a little slow unless you really have the engine revved out, and like I said, lacking a little bit of power. For most of the things that I'm doing with it, it works fine. There's only been, you know, a handful of situations where having that extra power truly would have made the difference. But really that speed at which this functions could be a little bit better. And the multi-function, I like the placement of this hydraulic control lever here close to the seat, but it, and I don't know what it is about the valve that's in there. It does multi-function, but it doesn't do it super well. And when I was shopping for tractors, you know, a lot of them in this size range would not multi-function at all. I don't remember if I tried out the hydraulics on a Deere, but I know I looked at a Massey Ferguson, at an LS, trying to remember what the other one was, and they wouldn't multi-function at all. This one will multi-function. I feel like it could be a little bit better. My L3430, it had the best hydraulics. They were fast, strong, smooth, and had a great multi-function. So I had really high expectations when I got this machine, and I'm just a little bit disappointed in the hydraulics there. Ergonomics on this tractor are good. It's got a tilt steering wheel. It's got a nice high back seat. The treadle pedal, you know, some people love it, some people hate it. You know, I'm kind of in the middle category. I don't have a lot of time running machines with the dual pedals. I do find that sometimes, you know, it's not the most comfortable to have your foot kind of, you know, going back and forth, front and back. Sometimes I'll place my foot, you know, kind of right in the middle to rock it back and forth, but I find that that's not always the most comfortable either. Other than that, though, you know, the treadle pedal works fine. You know, having the brake pedal on the right, the parking brake in the center, I think all that works good. The cruise control works good. It's a mechanical cruise control. That all works fine. Let's see here. Talked about the hood latch, the hydraulics, the 1/4 inching valve on the 3-point here. I really would have liked that to be a position control valve as opposed to the 1/4 inching valve. For most of what I do, it's okay. You know, it's, you know, raising and lowering the mower deck. But I find if I'm doing any work on the back, I've got a 4-foot box blade, I've got a 42-inch rototiller, and I've got a landscape rake back here that I really desire to have the position control that I had on my 3430 over the 1/4 inching valve. And you know, again, for a machine that's marketed, you know, as a premium machine in the market space here, you know, I feel like that could have been, you know, that should have been something that was added into the mix there from Kubota. The deck, same thing with this deck adjustment valve here, or lever, or whatever, dial, I guess, deck adjustment dial there in the middle. That's a little wonky to use. I find that when I'm adjusting it, it only really likes to work in one direction. Typically that is clockwise. If I'm trying to go counterclockwise, like if I have it on 4 and I want to go you know, back to 3, that I've got to go all the way around instead of just going from 4 to 3 there. You know, not the end of the world, but it does cause, you know, a little bit of extra effort there, especially you know, if you don't have the deck all the way up perfectly. Sometimes you got to raise it, lower it, raise it again to get that dial to work correctly. going back to positives, aftermarket support for this thing is great. Another reason for choosing the Kubota, all the different aftermarket modifications that are available to it, which right now I haven't taken full advantage of yet. As far as modifications right now, I have the Pat's Easy Change on the 3-point, and I've got the StableWorks telescoping stabilizer bars. Those are absolutely worth the money. Pat's Easy Change, definitely worth the money there, as far as making your 3-point much more easy to use, and you know, getting more functionality out of it. It gives you a little bit of extra space between the PTO and your implement by pushing it back a little bit, which on these smaller tractors is beneficial. It does move your center of gravity back a little bit, but as far as the PTO shaft length, having a couple extra inches of space there typically will help you with connecting your PTO shafts back there. So and while we're back here, you know, another positive thing, all the bodywork on this is metal. The fenders are metal, the hood's metal, the floor pan is all metal. You can see taking a little strike back here, cracked my light, but you know, kind of scratched my fender there, but didn't break it off. You can see here in the front, I've got some scratches on here from, you know, coming underneath low trees and stuff like that. Not all the subcompact tractors are full metal, and I feel like, at least with my use, which, you know, I don't beat the crap out of this thing, but I also I'm not babying it. I think I'm just kind of like your average user. I don't think the plastic would have held up with my application very well, let alone if you were someone that really was using this hardcore. I think plastic components would get beat up really bad. So that was another decision for me, another influencer in the decision for me to grab this machine as opposed to some of the other competitors. It's got the traditional skid steer coupler in the front. That's another must-have. You know, some of the other competitors, I think the LS did not offer a quick attach on the front, at least at the time when I was making my purchase decision. I know Deere has their own proprietary coupler, kind of forces you into their range of attachments. You know, the universal skid steer, you know, you can throw really anything with a skid steer attachment on here, provided that it's not too heavy, not too wide for the loader. And I use the bucket on there. I've also got a set of Land Pride pallet forks for it, and they work great. You know, I haven't had any issues with that. The last few things, as far as things that I don't like about this machine, the throttle control lever, this is going to be kind of a petty thing, but this I feel like could be done a little bit better. This little gasket never wants to stay in place. It's not lined up in the center of the housing here, and I feel like the effort to move this, it's a little difficult for what it should be. Again, on a premium machine, might have been nice to see a some type of throttle by wire with a dial, or a a lever that had less resistance. It might be something else to break. You know, this is pretty old school technology, a lever attached to a cable that goes to your fuel pump. But it does make adjusting the throttle a little bit more difficult. Not that you're doing that all the time, but just kind of a small thing. Lastly, thing about this machine that absolutely should have been done much better, and I was very disappointed when I went from my BX to this to find out the fuel filter or fuel filters for this machine are on the bottom. I can't even get you a shot of them because they're buried way up under here. One's buried up under there, the other one's buried behind that side panel in there. It's a little more accessible, but you've got two fuel filters, and one of them you've got to take the deck off, and you've got to get way up underneath there to get to it. And they're not like a filter that was designed to be changed on an easy basis, where you can just unscrew something and screw it back on. You've got to remove hose clamps. It's a barbed inline filter, and then it's a pain. It's a pain. I haven't done them on this one yet. I'm at the point where they probably should be done at 250 hours, give or take. I did the ones on my BX2280 a few times. It's a pain to get up there. I really wish Kubota had made the fuel, had done one fuel filter with a replaceable cartridge style filter. You know, something that is easily serviced, because it is not easy to service this, and as such, I suspect a lot of people probably forego doing that maintenance on their tractors. So anyway, so that's the I guess not such a short video overview. Again, would I buy this machine again? Yes. You know, is it perfect? No. Again, for me, I think it's just the reliability, the maneuverability of this machine. It's also very versatile. You know, I've got a 4-foot bush hog on here. It runs that pretty well. It is you know, a little cumbersome. You know, the bush hog is almost as long as the tractor is. So, you know, if you're doing some serious bush hogging, might not be the right machine, but I can run a 4-foot bush hog on here. 2 minutes, I can drop that, and I can put on my rototiller. Takes a few more minutes to drop that. I can put a box blade on there, or I can take all that off. In about a minute, I can take the loader off, and I can just have, you know, a you know, essentially a large garden tractor to mow the grass in. To mow the grass with here. So this thing's kind of like the Swiss Army knife of tractors. Doesn't do everything perfectly, but it does a lot of things really well, and for me, that's the big selling point. And you know, I know that it's uber reliable. I know that it's going to last, and that it's going to maintain its value. And for me, that's, you know, that recipe right there that's the selling package for me. So anyways, I hope you folks found this video helpful. If you have any specific questions, I'd be, you know, happy to answer them in the comments, make follow-up video for you. But this one's running kind of long, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. Thanks for watching.